And welcome once again to Flashpoints. I'm Bob Orr, joined by Juan Zarate, our national security analyst. Juan, good to see you.
Bob, great to see you.
The NSA and the government's a bit on the hot seat here because Edward Snowden has leaked details of a couple of very sensitive programs. How much damage has been done?
Well, they've done a damage assessment and tried to figure out what he's downloaded on the thumb drive that he's taken with him to Hong Kong and to Chinese territory. And certainly what he's revealed is not helpful to the NSA. It's not only created this political firestorm, but has given a sense of sources and methods to people we're tracking, to terrorists. And so that's never good. I think the NSA is also worried about other things that he may not only have downloaded, but may want to reveal or may seek to reveal in places like China. So I think the worry is what is yet to be revealed, and also the question of how the NSA can now defend these programs. And you see that with Keith Alexander, the head of Cyber Command, the head of the NSA, coming out with more details about how this program has been effective.
It's extraordinary, really, to see the head of the NSA and the deputy director of the FBI talking on Capitol Hill openly about some very closely held, just recently declassified cases. What should we make of that? This is really an effort to try to convince the public this is not Big Brotherish.
Right. I think the administration and the intelligence communities had to make the choice that they're going to have to explain this program. They're going to have to explain its value, its legality, and its processes. And so you've seen now the administration coming out with more information. You've also seen, Bob, by the way, pressure from the private sector, those internet companies like Google, who are now asking to lift the gag order on what exactly they've been providing so that they can defend themselves. And so now that all this is out in the open, it's been published in the papers, and we talk about it all the time, the government has to explain why these programs are important. Otherwise, the imaginings of this are worse than the realities of what actually happens with this data and this information.
So the more secretive it is, the scarier it is, essentially.
That's right. I mean, the more we sort of just pontificate here without knowing how actually this program works, what controls are in place, how the audits work, how it's valuable and how it's used, and whether or not it's constrained or not, that's important. Keep in mind the 2006 example of this, which I think we did well in the Bush administration, when the New York Times reported on the terrorist financing tracking program. We were ready to go when that happened because we assumed it was going to be public. So we had tabletopped it. We had prepared the public affairs folks, not just in the US, but in the UK and at the company, Swift in Belgium. And so when it came out, we were public, we were open about how we had controlled the data, what we did to build in privacy and civil liberties. And I think the administration in some ways is catching up a bit to try to do precisely that.
And explain this to me as we wrap this topic up. The government says great damage has been done. Keith Alexander said irreversible damage. But to look at it from the other side, didn't the terrorists know, didn't the al-Qaeda operatives know their communications were being tracked and being watched and being followed? So really, did we tell them anything they didn't know?
Well, this is always the debate. You know, we tell them we're tracking them, we tell them we're listening, we tell them we're looking at their finances. Of course they know. The challenge, though, Bob, is they don't know exactly how we're doing it. They don't know through what methods we're doing it. They don't know which avenues actually we've gotten access to. And so they may know in concept, and certainly some of the high-end terrorists may know more precisely. But for the entire terrorist universe, I think we assume too much in terms of how they understand what we're doing to track their behaviors, their communications, their financing. With these news reports, it puts the playbook out in the open and makes it a lot easier for them to try to evade.
And just finally, real quickly, going forward, how does the intelligence community recover and move forward and put the pieces back together here?
Well, they've got three problems. They've got to deal with Snowden, who's out there still, who every day as it goes by looks in the eyes of some like a martyr, in the eyes of others like a spy. And so you've got to deal with him because he's got data and he's on Chinese territory. Secondly, they've got to defend these programs. And so you're going to see more and more openness about how these programs have worked, how they're controlled. But third, I think there's a broader policy debate that we now have to grapple with. How does the government deal with big data, with new technologies, with the reality that we're asking the government to do a lot, to put the pieces together in terms of all this data that's out there, but we also want to make sure that they're not abusing it. And so that's a much broader and deeper debate that we need to really grapple with as a country, because it's not just what the government does with our data, it's what commercial entities do.
And that's something we'll follow as we go along. Juan, thanks as always.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks to you for watching Flashpoints. I'm Bob Orr. We'll see you next time.